Hi everyone, very happy to be back with another live Ask a Pianist. This is our ninth Ask a Pianist. Hope everyone is doing great. Let's see, our next live feed is probably going to be next Saturday at the same time, although that's not confirmed yet, so that's going to be in the description. And I do have some extra scores here for some questions that some of you might be asking. I'm going to go ahead and share this. I can see the share thing. I'm going to go ahead and share that on Facebook. I still can't figure out how it works. So hi everyone, how's everyone doing? What pieces are you guys working on? And what would you like to talk about? You can go ahead and write in any questions you have about anything. There we go. Share it on Facebook. Post. The camera's still mirrored. That's probably going to be fixed and probably going to be mirrored for another live stream or two. So who's here? What are you guys working on? Moment of silence. I have these Beethoven sonatas, the first volume, which I don't have. So someone was asking, I think almost each time about Opus 10, number 1, I think it was. So I have that. We can look at that today. Hi, Dave S. What else can I tell you guys? I got a bunch of scores coming in the mail. Schumann, Chreisleriana, the Schubert impromptus. Whoever was asking about that, we'll be able to look at that. What else is coming? Beethoven Fourth Sonata, the E flat major one. There's a few other scores. Chopin Mazurkas, because some of them I still don't have. So what's everyone working on? You guys are super quiet today. Maman Musico, yes. Maman Musico are great. So we'll be able to look at those in detail in probably about 2 or 3 weeks. Maman Musico 4, okay, that's wonderful. Those are so beautiful. So are the impromptus. Okay, so I'm just waiting for some questions. When someone writes in some stuff, we'll get on to a subject. If no one writes anything, I'm going to have to make one up myself. Chopin Prelude number 24 bar 55. Hi. I loveless boa. Chopin Prelude number 24 bar 55. I would like to know how to practice. Okay, cool. Let's look at that. Oh, you meant the Rachmaninoff Maman Musico. Okay, yeah, those are great too. I don't know them as well, but they are wonderful. Okay, so let's look at that. Chopin Preludes. Number 24, that's the last one. Bar 55, how do you practice that? Let's see. Okay, I actually don't have bar numbers in this score, which is too bad. I should only buy scores with bar numbers. So this is, I really don't know this piece. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So where is that approximately? I wish I had the bar numbers written in. It's 4, 8. Yeah, it's probably somewhere here. Is that where you have this? Is that? If you can be a little specific with what's going on in that bar, then I can find it, because I don't want to count all the bar numbers right here, right now, right? Yeah, that's the part. Okay, well these are minor thirds. So you just need to have this fingering for minor thirds actually, and these become really easy. I did make, this is one of the very first videos I ever did on YouTube. So you find it there. It's called, well, if you do a search for minor thirds, but basically, once you learn this, the minor thirds chromatic scales become very, very easy. So we're doing, what happens is you're doing a fingering so that, let's say we're going down, you have a second finger on the end of the black key. Now this one might be a little confusing with a mirrored camera, but you can look at the video that's already done on these minor thirds, and it'll be pretty clear. We're basically repeating the second finger every time you go down from the end of the black keys to the white keys. So it kind of looks like you're sliding the second finger. Well, you're actually, the upper finger, the upper voice is a pivot. So you're just replacing, so you'll see it better in the left hand. It's going to be like this. That's where we're using 2-2. So probably, yeah, if you look in that video, I think it'll be pretty pretty easy. Now you also have 3 versus 2 in here, yeah. Oh, that starts up there, yeah. Yeah, so all the fingerings are in there. I would recommend you look at it, and that should probably help a lot. If you still have questions after that, then feel free to ask about that. Moment Musical number 4. I think I have the Moment Musical, but I don't know them at all. I've never played them. I probably have them here. I have the Sonata. No, it's the Etude Tableau that I have, actually. Yeah. So what else is everyone working on? Hi, Christo. Bugging you about Schumann. Is that Chrysleriana? Yeah, that's great. So it's on its way. Liszt Ballade number 2, beautiful. And Debussy, Ce qu'a vu le vent d'ouest. That's a prelude, right? I think that's a beautiful prelude, if it's the one I recall. Czerny La Ricordanza variations. Yeah, I know Czerny. I don't know those variations though. And Chopin Nocturne 27 number 2. Cool. Thoughts on tempi for what? Yeah, Liszt Ballade number 2. That's a beautiful piece. How's that going? Is there some questions you might have in there? I'd be curious. That's definitely something we could talk about. Hi, Ed. Thanks. I'm glad you liked the tutorial. Chopin, a Nocturne Opus 27 number 2. Which one is that? '27 number 2. Aha, yeah, D flat major. Do you like your nocturnes slow? I guess it depends on the nocturne, you know. The other thing is it depends on exactly what you feel is appropriate mood for how you feel. It's hard to say, you know. I think you have to record yourself and listen again and see how it sounds. And sometimes what seems slow to you when you listen to a recording, you realize like it's really not that slow at all. You could take it much slower. And sometimes the contrary is also true. So the other thing that you have to consider also is when you're, let's say, performing it or playing it for someone. Sometimes, let's say a really slow tempo is appropriate, but you have to be able to like get into that vibe, into that mood to be able to play it slow. So I'm not sure how slow I would do this one. You know, he does write lento sostenuto, which is, you know, pretty slow. And then here there's a metronome mark, but he didn't write the metronome mark, so I'm not really a fan of even bothering with metronome marks. I think it's better to just go with the feel, you know, and explore. about as fast as I think you would go in that nocturne. I don't think you can go much faster than that. And the other thing you have to think of is it's in 6/8, right? So that makes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2. Not, 1, 2, or something like that. That's something to consider when we have pieces uh, in 6/8 or 9/8 or 12/8. And again, it depends on the nocturne. See, so that one I would probably do more on the slow side, but they don't all have to be like that at all. Some of them are a little like this one. And there's also a part in this one where you can go a little faster. So there's a lot of those kind of the middle parts in the nocturnes are a little less slow usually. You can pump up the tempo a bit. I know you made a video about Opus 10 number 1, but I'm still really struggling, naturally, on going down with arpeggios. Going up is a lot more stress-free, okay? A lot more stress-free and a lot less stressful than going down. I can't really pinpoint why. Interesting, okay. Let's see. Try this. We talked about this in one of the streams. I don't know if you were there, but I don't think I mentioned this in the video because I hadn't really started learning this piece yet, and this is something that I discovered later. But I think when you're going down, you need a little bit of rotation whenever you come back on the 5th finger. So here. So I think it makes a big difference. It did for me. I'd be really curious to see how it is for you. So you kind of, when you come down, you do have the wheel, but bring back the 5th finger sideways by doing this. So like that, you just give a little shot of rotation. And if you put an accent on those notes, it's going to be easier. I was saying there was no accent, and there actually is accents written in the parts, or it was just on the top note. I can't remember. Yeah, there are actually accents written on each of those notes. So you would do. It actually makes sense. See how that goes. It's a very complicated etude, so you have to go really slowly with this stuff. I'm sorry for going like super fast, I think I showed it in the video, but not doing this thing. So that should make a difference. Let me know how that works, Dave. Hi, Adri. I'm a beginner. Do I practice double notes so that don't sound like ta-ta, and how do I practice them so that one of the two notes sound louder? Trying to understand your question. Double notes, right? So they don't sound like ta-ta. Depends exactly what we're talking about here. How do you practice them so one of the two notes sound longer? Well, usually when you have this thing, again, we'd have to look at a specific context, but usually it's, the second one that's louder. And this is actually really good practice for everyone. So you can do this in, even let's say you're playing this. As a practice, double the notes. What that's doing is forcing you to stay in the higher part of the key and not hit too low, in which case you try to make two repeated notes and you only get one, when that happens. So, but that's not only a technical issue to get the note to repeat. Of course, on a really good electric piano or on a grand piano, that's going to be easier. the point is not getting the note to repeat. It's actually the sound that you make is very different when you stay just right at the top of the key. You know, I'd have to bring the camera really close to show you this one time, but you're just going as lightly as possible. So I don't know if you can see the difference, but not so much here. Lift the key all the way, just at the very top. And then when you do these repeated notes, attack them just like this, a little bit in the front so the arm is connected, and you can get a really ringing sound. So that's actually a very good thing for sound. You know, I don't know if that answers your question about, you know, not sounding ta-ta, but see, the second one is louder, and it's rare that you have something like where the first one is loud. That's really an exception, I would say. So hi everyone who's joining. You can go ahead and ask any question you want in the chat, and we'll get to that. Hold on, where are we here? Okay. There is a business of historic practice when it comes to composers like Beethoven. What was that about? Sometimes some chat things don't show up here on this thing, so if ever I miss some of your stuff, that's why. Over 40 already. You think I need to practice more because I'm old? That's funny. Well, yeah. I don't know if people who are young have to actually practice less, you know. I suppose if you really want to have results, maybe you do have to, you know, make sure your practice is consistent. Consistency is always better than quantity, that's for sure. So it doesn't mean you have to practice 5 hours a day, but you know, if you just come back to it at almost every day, at least 5 days a week, that's the most important thing, I think. What do you think about symmetry in practice, which Hamlin did? I think that is super cool. He's kind of a genius to be able to figure it out so quickly. Like he just looks at something and knows right away. But that is something I do sometimes. It's really really good. It's kind of funny, but I don't know. It just exercises your brain in a weird way. But what's good is that often one hand is better at doing some technical thing than the other one. So for those of you who haven't seen this, what he does is something like, let's say you have, let's take something that's a little technically complicated. I don't really have anything here. He's gonna mirror what's in one hand in the other. I'm not sure how I can do this right now, but let's just take this. So if you have, well, you're gonna mirror everything kind of like it is on the camera right now. So actually, it's gonna look like in the left hand I'm playing exactly what's in the right hand. So that's the third on the highest part of the black keys. It's like you put a mirror between the two hands. So you would do. You mirror everything. And often when you have, let's say it's something in the left hand that's really complicated, the right hand knows how to do it a little better. So you're doing the exact same technique in both hands because the hands are mirrored. Yeah, that's a very cool practice. Props to anyone who has the patience to do it, but it's great. What is the easiest piece written by Chopin? Well, probably one of the preludes. There are some books you can find that has like, you know, pieces by Chopin from like easy to hard for like not too advanced. I think Prelude number 7, probably. That's among the easier one, but I think there's even easier pieces than that. But the preludes are definitely among Not all of them. I would say the preludes are among the hardest things he ever wrote, but some of them are not too bad. Number four, you can learn number four. Number six. Number six is really not so bad. That's one of the easiest pieces I think he wrote. And number seven as well. And there's another one in there. Number nine is not so hard either. Those are about, I think, the easiest pieces he wrote. Then you would probably get into the waltzes, some of the waltzes, like the posthumous ones, the one in A minor. There's another one also. There's a couple of posthumous waltzes, which are really not so difficult. That's probably the easiest Chopin pieces. There's that one, and yeah, there's that E flat major. So the other waltz I was talking about is waltz in A minor. It's probably the most, maybe not the most famous one, but it says Brown Index 150. That's because Chopin never published it. So it's a waltz that was just found after he died. You know, he probably wrote it when he was really young, most likely, which is why it's not so difficult. But a lot of people like to play that. So hi Alain, hi Hunter, hi everyone who's joined in. Let's see, where are we at here? Okay, back to repeated notes, like at the same time, not one and then the other. The same time? You mean in two hands? The same time, repeated notes the same time. I'm not sure I get it. Oh, you mean like things like so it doesn't sound. You mean playing at the same time? I think that's what you mean. So if you're playing at an interval, so you don't want it to sound. Can you hear that? They're not played at the same time. How do you get them exactly at the same time? Here's something that's going to help a lot. If you play forward with the arm and the fingers are already placed on the keys, this is very important. The fingers have to be already placed on the keys. See, if you're attacking, let's say from here, it's much harder to get them to sound at the same time because, you know, let's say it's not the thumb and the third. Let's say it's 2 and 3. You're playing with 2 and 3. Well, you might be attacking kind of like this. You know, the third finger is a little longer. So then you end up with that. Now, if you're already on the keys, it's a heck of a lot easier. So you can think of it more as like going a little bit into the key, but almost up from the key. And not only down, but going forward. See, imagine this, let's say, okay, we're back to 1, 3 now. Imagine this is like a fork, for lack of better words. Let's say it's a fork. Then you're putting the fork into the potato or steak or salad for the vegetarians. You're putting it at the same time. There's not one prong that should reach before the other. If this is solid and you're using this as one piece, so the fingers aren't necessarily independent from each other in this situation of doing in an interval. So they should sound together if you do that. Try that trick and see how that works. Double notes like do, mi, re, fa. Yeah, I think we were on track there. Do you recommend practicing long runs with modified rhythm, dotted rhythm, like doing staccato? I wonder if that'd be useful for Opus 10 number 1. Dotted rhythm. So you mean doing like, or like, I would recommend both. For sure that helps. All the modified rhythmic stuff is really, really, really good, especially for like developing your virtuosity. So if you do like, let's see, what could you do with this? Would you stop anywhere else? You have to experiment all the time. on the G, so that's what we're doing. Stop on the C. Could be useful. Now, that's another way you could do it. You could also do things like this. The other thing you could do is, let's say you do 1 and 3. So that's a little bit easier. The other one you can do is 2 and 4. So that's one of the better ones, I think. It's a little harder than stopping on 1 and 3 to stop on 3 and 4. I'm not sure what else you can do in that etude because it's so homogeneous from beginning to end, but those are a few of the ideas. And then, yeah, we talked about staccato. I never tried that one, but it could have some use. It's not a bad idea to practice things staccato. And okay, question from Alain. To expand on Adri's question about double notes, yes. At the same time, perhaps a demonstration with how to approach this with sixths would also be nice. Okay, Nocturne 15, number 1, B section of Chopin. Nocturne 15. Can you give me the opus number of that, Alain? Would be a little quicker because I don't have them numbered here. Let me just try to find it in the index. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Is that E flat major, opus 55, number 2? The B section. Are you talking about this thing? Is that it? Maybe just clarify which one it is and we can look at it. Opus 15, number 1, the F major one. Opus 15, number 1. Right, Opus 15. Ah, yeah, okay. Here's an example of drawer technique. Is it? Hard to say, actually. Usually drawer, what happens is you have a note in between. So this works very well with drawer if you have something like that. But now you have... That is quite complicated, so... drawer doesn't work very well here. It's too fast and you have 2 intervals on both sides, and that's what makes drawer kind of not the ideal technique, is when you have twice sixths. See, if it was just like that would work well. I will admit that's not an easy passage. For a little bit. I'm not sure what's... Think of it as a rotation between the 1 and the 5. So you have like the bottom and the top here. what? I'm tempted to actually look at this one a little bit because I feel like I would need to do that. And I would get back to you on the next stream. Maybe we can start with that. Because I'm just going to say anything today. I'm not sure. See, sometimes I have it. I'm trying to observe what it is that I'm doing, but again, when you have a little bit of movement in there, that really helps than just staying kind of like stiff here. So you have like a little bit of buoyancy in the wrist. And you kind of going forward towards each beat, you know, 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I think I found it. I remember Bob McDonald saying the same thing in Ondine. You know, so it's sort of similar sort of thing. Try to go forward on the beats. So you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. That should help a lot in this. You're always making sure that you go forward with the arm on all of the strong beats. Which means you're going back a little bit on the second. So you're 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. See how that works? That should make a good difference. Okay. C minor prelude. Hi Hunter, C minor prelude. Is that what you're working on? Is that a Chopin prelude? Which one is that? Do you have any questions specific in there? What to do for daily routine finger practice? Well, of course you can do scales, you can do exercises. There's this exercise that I keep talking about for independence of fingers. That was an exercise I wish I knew about, like, you know, when I started playing piano. Maybe not started because it is still pretty difficult. That's on the channel. You can find that, Independence of Fingers. There's also the exercise by Horowitz, like this. But that's better actually for applying the technique, applying the rotation and wheel. It's not such a technical thing. You know, you can take little exercises, things that you want to work on. Like, for example, we talked about the minor thirds and scales. So again, there's a video on that, but you can do them. Yeah, that's what I didn't say about those minor thirds. You can do them at the same time. So that was a favorite of mine for like a year or so. I would just do that, sort of like a warm-up kind of thing. And then, of course, you know, there's always this question of, do we do exercises to develop our ease of finger movement and virtuosity? Or are we more trying to learn pieces that have those sort of things in them? Like, for example, to play Czerny etudes and Chopin etudes if you're more advanced. So I kind of like to do them in pieces, but I think for little technical things, some exercises are very, very good. C minor, E minor, approachable preludes to start. Yeah, I think we mentioned those. Hi, Twiltot. My question is about classical period passages, especially fast Mozart and Haydn ones generally. Do you have a tip for improving articulation for that fast détaché sound? Okay, cool. Okay, so what can we do with that? Haydn and Mozart, that's a good question because that is a kind of sound that we use a lot for classical music especially, and probably Haydn above any other composer. Uh, yeah, it's kind of funny. I always laugh. Marc Zorin used to always say, it's a kind of popcorn-like sound, because he's always doing these things like, and not saturated with a pedal, but rather really fresh and popcorny, as he would say. Don't take Haydn's popcorn away. So let's look at something like maybe you have. Okay, while we're in the E flat major sonata, things like so these sort of things. If you want more definition in your fast passages, a very good practice actually is to lift the fingers that I've finished playing. So now I lift the 5, lift the 4, and really do it this slowly. Play lift the thumb, lift the 5, lift the 4, lift the 3, lift the 2, lift the 1, lift the 2, lift the 1. So it would look something like this. I'm probably going too fast if I was doing this for the first time, but you really try to lift the finger as much as you can that has finished playing, so you're not actually playing the next finger. The next finger automatically plays when you lift the one that's finished. So you would practice something like that, about as slow as this. And then see how that makes a difference? You should have more of that kind of thing. That's a really fast passage, but let's say we have something like if you wanted to do that. Well, I don't know if that's about the speed that you're working on, but that's quite an interesting subject because there's so many variants on the length of the notes. So there's a way of playing this, we call this portato, for maybe a lack of more precise word. But see, staccato would be and legato, but somewhere in between, it's like they're still long, but there's a little, there's such a strong definition on each note. It's like every note becomes important when you do that. Let me know if that answers your question about like Haydn and Mozart and those fast passages. That should definitely give you something to work on. Also, are you thinking about doing more competitions? Cool. Not really. I think I've graduated from them now. The last one I did was over a year ago, and I'm not sure. I won't say I absolutely won't. There's a lot of value in doing them, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really intend to. It's so annoying to do competitions at the same time. It's such an unideal way of playing, but it does make you work your butt off, that's for sure. What do you think about list exercises? I never looked at them. Uh, yeah, I know which ones you're talking about. They're probably great. As a pianist who spent time both in Europe and U.S., do you think there's a notable difference? There's a huge difference. There's a difference in the technique. There's a difference in. I think the Europeans, yeah, they have a very different way of going about teaching. The whole system is different. Even in a lot of European schools, for example, like lessons in, let's say, universities in the States and Canada, it's kind of a one-on-one thing. You close the door and have a lesson with your teacher. In Europe, it's more of like an open house sort of. People come in and listen to your lesson, so you can go listen to your teacher teach anytime. That's really different thing than here. I think it's more you learn. You can learn a lot more because you can learn so much watching someone else's lesson. There's also a difference in general in technique. I find there's like a difference. Europeans, they're more into this sort of string plucking thing like this, using the arms a bit more like that than I've ever found people in the States or Canada. They're always talking about playing forward, which is more the way I teach as well. I don't discredit either of them. I think they're good for a variety of things. Sometimes I'll use this sort of thing, and sometimes I'll use more like that kind of technique. They make different sounds. Probably another difference I would say between European and let's say North American teachers is I want to say this right. There's like more of an understanding from the European side on, let's say, I think going back on my experiences, I think they're more connected to the poetic side of the music and the stories behind it and where it comes from and yeah, the aesthetics of the music. It seems to me. I'm not entirely sure about that, but that's what I found. Hi Joel. Do you play octaves with wrist or forearm movements? Okay, let's talk about that. Hi Daniel. Okay, wrist with octaves with wrist or forearms. I don't really like the whole wrist thing. I don't think it's a good idea. This whole thing. There was a video. I'm gonna talk a little bit of crap, but I think it's worth it. There was a video some time ago with Lang Lang, and he was showing people how to play octaves, and he did this thing with a wrist. It was kind of like a little crazy, but weeks later we found out he had tendonitis. So now I want to be careful saying that because it can happen to the best of us. But in general, it doesn't have to be this wrist movement. I think is much more tiring. And it depends the kind of octaves. Like if they're very like in the Chopin octave etude, they're very chromatic, so you can kind of crawl from one note to the other with 5 and 4. When you have black keys. But if you have something like if you have this, again, I wouldn't be using any wrist to do this. It's more of again, you can look at your wheel, see it can be something like this, going up and going down, right? So, see how we kind of, the wrist does need flexibility. That's very important to understand. That doesn't mean that the wrist is locked and we're just playing like this, because the wrist does move. See? So here we're like this, and then like that. So this is happening. There's a complete flexibility in there, but the arm is bringing the hands to the right place. It's not a question of doing this. And when you practice this again, I did make a video on this sort of thing. It's very helpful to rest in the keys. So again, you rest in the keys. Once you're rested, then you go attack the next note with your sound. You make your sound. So that's not really a wrist movement. Again, as you can see, there's a flexibility in the wrist. So again, it's not just like that, because you have to make the sound when you go and attack the next one, that's it, like that. That's my take on octaves. I wouldn't do too much wrist stuff, but keep the wrist flexible, very important. Okay. Boskovsky Etude, Opus 72 in C minor. Okay. Yeah, you know what? Those are. I'm gonna buy those etudes. Thanks for bringing that up. We've talked about that a few times. I'm just gonna write it down. There's only one of them that I know. It's the one in C flat minor, but I love that etude. I'm just gonna make a note. Gonna add it to the next order because those are pretty good etudes to work on. Holding a note with the thumb while playing other notes. Okay, example. Thank you for being really specific. Example is holding a C with the thumb while playing E flat, G, B, C. So E flat, G, B, C. Doing something like that. Again, if that's what it is, it would be a lot easier to use, again, use the arm to help. Now I'm doing 5-5, but even at that, the arm is helping. 2, 3, 5, 5. So if you're just relying on this, well, it's not impossible, but this kind of movement helps a lot. So if you were doing fingers, well, you can imagine your thumb is really heavy, you know. So let's say we're doing Marc-André Hamelin's exercise here. We would do we're doing it backwards, something like that. So yeah, imagine the thumb is really heavy when you do this, and if there's a way you can connect the movement of the other notes with the arm, that's going to make it also easier. And when we get the etudes, well, ask me again, and we'll look specifically at it. Yeah, very hard to practice this as it's so exhausting to go quickly with the wrist. I think so. I don't even want to go there to find out exactly how exhausting it is. Similar to what you just showed, I too struggle with long passages like that, which put me off. Pictures at an exhibition, yes. I think the Catacombs movement has 2 pages of super fast octave tremolo. Those are very tiring, for sure. So is that a tremolo like, or? So when you have this sort of stuff, again, the buoyancy in the wrist really forces your whole hand to relax. So when you get tired, there has to be some kind of tension somewhere. So, you know, if you're doing, at some point you feel a little tired, well, there must be some kind of tension. So you can try staying more like inside the keys. Don't even let the keys come up completely. And then when you have the buoyancy in the wrist, that's kind of assuring that, even if it's like this, that's been a helpful way for me anyway to practice this sort of thing if I feel like the arm is getting tired. I have to look at that eventually. Okay, we got a few more questions. Someone asked what the easiest Chopin piece was, and I said Chopin C minor Prelude number 20 is the easiest piece, but I'm working on 16. Number 20, really? Which one is that? Rings a bell now. I guess, yeah, that's among, again, that's among some of the easier ones that we didn't mention, correct. So, yeah, I don't know if it's the easiest. I don't know if it's easier than number 7 or what, but, and you're working on 16? Whoa, holy smokes, man, that's a tough one. That's one of the harder ones. 16, really? Prelude 16? There's a big difference between those two anyway. Earl Koenig, yeah. That's a similar sort of thing, right? Now I would have to do it by ear because I don't know how. I don't know. Is it an A minor? So okay, here's another place where again you're doing this scale. You need to have some movement. Let's say the wrist starts here, and then you're bringing it up all the way to this. Something like that. It doesn't have to be exactly that. We might tweak that a little bit. Well, for sure, if this is tight in one place, which is probably the case for a lot of people who would be playing this, would be to do it like that. That's very hard compared to. Now, I don't know if we would maybe go like that. It's possible. I don't think you can think about it that much. There's also a little bit of shake in the arm. And here in the right hand, again, see the difference between this and this. Now I get tired immediately. So you need to find some places to go forward. Come forward on the beats. It becomes much easier. And all right, a couple more questions here. Maybe, let's see, didn't know lessons were less open in Canada. That's correct. Where do you live, Twiltot? They're less open in Canada, and as far as I know, in the States, I've never taken lessons in the States, like in a university, but I think they do it the same way. I'm not sure. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers. Well, if that's what it says. Yeah, that also works. So think of your wheel. It's going to help a lot in there, if that's exactly what it is. How to reduce tension when playing in front of an audience? Excellent question. Yeah, that takes a lot of experience. I think you kind of have to take for granted the fact that in front of a public or in a nerve-wracking situation, you are going to be more tense. So you have to learn to kind of make the difference from being tense to not tense. Maybe do these exercises sometimes where you tense up all the muscles in your body and then you relax them just to see how that feels actually to go from being tense to not tense. What's hard is, if let's say you're shaking, you're really nervous, but can you still be like, can you still find some inner peace somewhere, especially if it's like if it goes with the music? I think that helps. You can use the music as a kind of refuge from the let's say the tension or the nervousness, the nerve-wrackingness of the music. If you have a specific piece that you're wondering what to do that on, let me know what the piece is, because there might be something that can go in there. It's hard to just isolate a question like that, but if we take a specific piece, you just have to think about it all. Imagine yourself in public in front of the audience. You're nerve-wracked, but you're completely supple, as much as you need to be. Not like a dead fish. There's still like some control over what you're doing, but there's a suppleness to your movements in spite of being in front of people and maybe being nerve-wracked. That's the thing to work on. I answered your question before reading it. Cool. And then, still speaking about octaves, can you illustrate something like the Tchaikovsky concerto and how to get speed and accuracy? Okay. Oh man. Yeah, we can go into that. We'd almost do a whole video on this. Let's see. You know, this is very similar to the passage in the Liszt Sonata. You're talking about the third movement, Christo? Is that the one at the end? I mean, I think that's the one we would take. So let's work on that. Let's see. So I haven't really played this in ages. So that's a good example. You know, how would I go about this? First, the notes have to be very, very clear, and then you can start working more on the technique. But the first thing I would do is feel the heaviness of the arms. You know, imagine you're like, your arms are like big wet mops that you're dragging around. You know, a mop that's like wet and full of water, how like heavy it is, and it kind of does that. So before, we're not shaping anything now, but it's a very different way of playing than to be tight, and now it's going to be hard to control rather than resting in each key. So if that's hard to do, the heavy mop thing will take time to rest in each key, about at this speed. So see, we rest in each key, and when you feel fully rested, you go hit the next note with a small amount of tension in the arm. See, there's a little bit of tension there, but we relax right away. See, you could even go with no tension. Now, the other thing is when you have again, you know, we're talking about this coming up, just like that really helps. Practice like that. So if you have a jump here, that's exactly where you want to practice the resting. See? That sort of thing. So you would play this and rest, and then you see the octave where you're going, and you go get it, and then rest again. And if you don't have it, well, you just keep doing that until you have it, you know, like 5 times out of 5. Let's see. So I miss it here with the thumb. So again, rest and go, and then repeat. And it starts to get pretty accurate. Then test it in the context. So far, it seems to work very good. That's another place, because you have to jump from this F all the way to the G. So again, you would rest on this F. Whenever you have big jumps, this is very, very helpful. You're completely rested. You know, I leave the notes played down, and then when I'm ready, you see where you're going, you see the G, and then go hit it. And let's see if we get it. Yes. And try it again. And then put it in context. You should feel a kind of relaxation in your arms that will surprise you when you're doing this sort of thing. What else would we do about shaping here? This is more similar to this, because we have this sort of, not always chromatic, but we can crawl again on the keys. When you have black keys, use the 4th finger on the black keys. Very, very helpful. And then here, be very aware of where you have black keys, because see, when you just have white keys, like, well, we just have to kind of make something up with the wrist. But when you have black keys, you have to go move a little bit further in to the keys to hit the black key, and that tends to bring the wrist up. So use that. Use that as some place where this is doing something. See? So, see that? We're kind of going into the E flat and the B flat. that's about it. I'm not sure what else we can put in there for now, but I think it's enough. So, okay, so a few things. Keep a buoyancy in the wrist. Make sure that there's some kind of movement that happens. When it's only on white keys, well, it can be. When you start to have black keys, well, you can go in towards the black keys. And the other thing is to rest in the keys so you feel very relaxed on each key. You'll find it helps the precision very much, because the reason you miss the notes and get tired is it's like you're trying to skid on the notes by doing this. And that's why you miss it, versus being rested in each key. Very big difference. Oh, you live in Turkey, cool. And you go to Germany and Austria often, wonderful. I lived in Vienna for 2 years. Very interesting city. What challenged you artistically lately? Do you have any plateaus? Let me see. What challenged me artistically lately as a challenge? I think the biggest challenge I had in the last few years was learning Rock 3. I don't know anyone. I can imagine easily that no one learning that piece wouldn't have some kind of plateau at some point, just because it's so long and substantial. I guess, I look at plateaus kind of as a normal thing. I think you go through it in the learning process of any piece, no matter how challenging it might be. If you really take it to the extreme level of learning the piece, memorizing it, knowing it by heart, as Fleischer would say, making it part of your DNA. It just takes a long time to do that. So you do reach a plateau, a point where you feel like I'm not making any more progress, and you put it aside for 3 days, sometimes a week or a month, and come back to it and keep working on it. That's the idea, is just to keep working on it. Take a break, but then come back and keep working on it. I think, recently, some of the solo things I've learned. See, this isn't something I face so much doing chamber music, because you don't have to memorize, so it's much, 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 much easier to play. It's a much faster to learn something than if you have to memorize. It kind of takes you know, almost a month to be really solid in your memory and know what you're doing. And that's the kind of thing where, recently this year, I played two Beethoven piano sonatas, and I kind of felt that way, So I start learning in advance, so I kind of anticipate there's going to be a period where I'll want to take a break and come back to it. That's a good thing to do. Hi, Samuel. How can you practice scales in a practical way? When I do them, it gets really tedious to play holy shit, all 36. Should I practice them all in one practice session? Well, how long have you been playing? If you've been playing scales, all 36 scales, melodic, major, melodic. That's a lot. I wouldn't spend more than, I think, as a general rule, for people who want to do warm-ups and scale and exercises, or if you haven't learned the scales and you have to learn them, which you should, a good kind of rule of thumb is about 15% of your time. 15%, let's say a quarter, let's say 25%, no more. So if you have an hour to practice, that's 15 minutes of exercises total. That's scales and any other exercise you're going to do, and then start working on your pieces. That's kind of the rule of thumb I learned early on, that I still think is good, because I don't think you should spend too much time on the scales, because you need to spend a lot of time working on the pieces. So, but don't neglect the scales. Usually I would just choose certain ones. Pick the ones that you want to improve, that need improvement. Maybe there's 3 of them, and focus on those. And if you do chords and arpeggios as well, do the same chords and arpeggios for the same scale. Then that's a very good idea. Yeah, I wouldn't practice them all in one session all the time. Maybe you can do it once a week or once a month if you so desire, but I don't think I've ever done that in my life. With the Tchaikovsky, I find that when you go past a certain speed, I start playing split notes. Uh-huh. in that section? Is it just repetition and muscle memory? Split notes? I know you have the same thing in the list towards the end. The Liszt Sonata? I don't know exactly what you mean. Certain speed playing split notes, like they don't play at the same time, or you hit two notes with one finger. How do you determine when you are ready to perform a piece? Ooh, that's another good question. I love these questions about performance and stuff. Let's see. How do you determine when you're ready? I think what you have to do is play it for people. Like do like a fake performance. It doesn't have to be for a huge audience. It can be for just one person. So because you know that when you play it on your own, it's pretty good, and then you play it for your teacher, and not the same. So the not the same in front of your teacher is going to be very similar in front of an audience. So that kind of gives you an idea. Someone had said, which I agree with, you play it about 10 times. By the 10th time you perform it. Again, a performance could be like playing it once for your mom. That's once you've done that about like 10 times, you're pretty ready to play it. If you've only done it 3 times, you can still be ready to play it, but at least you'll know. So, and you can play for someone that stresses you a little bit. Then if you're going to play in a performance and you know that you're stressed in the performance, then that's also going to help. So don't be shy to do it. If you're shy to play for someone, then you're not ready to play it for an audience, I would say. Yeah. And of course, if you're able to do that, let's say like a week before you have to play it, then that's very good. Another thing you can do is record yourself. That's amazing. If you just record yourself, film yourself. That's kind of like almost like playing it for someone, because the camera is also recording, so you can't stop, and you have a little bit of a pressure to like record it so it sounds good. Then you listen to it and you hear all the things that have to be fixed and improved. It becomes very specific, and that's going to help too, because you have specific places to concentrate on. So having specific places to concentrate kind of keeps your mind busy, and you tend to be a little less nervous and just thinking about like things like what people are thinking about your performance, and a bit more focused on the music. All right, yes, time for dinner, it would seem. Okay, guys, very last question here. Chopin Etude 10 number 1. My arms are still so tired even while trying the wheel technique. I don't know what's wrong. If your arms are so... Yeah, okay. This is the difficulty of this piece. It's very tiring, even with the wheel. So I think, this is how I got it up to speed, but to be perfectly honest, it's still a challenge for me. So what I do is I'll put the metronome on at a relatively slow speed, enough that I'm able to relax this, and just work at that speed to feel as relaxed as you can inside the hand. Because the reason we get so tired is because, especially in some of these, there's a couple of those arpeggios that are really tight for the hand. But if you're at a very slow speed and you're relaxed, then you can incrementally raise the speed while maintaining the same kind of relaxation. Eventually you'll get to something more like this, where this feels really free and no longer even if I'm doing the wheel. So this is a tough piece. So for sure, as far as relaxation is going, that's a challenge for everyone. So I think you have to feel the relaxation and work as slowly as you have to work to feel that. And that's going to help. Okay, guys, so that's the end of this session. Don't forget to like this video, and if you want to stay tuned on when the live streams are, you can click the bell next to the subscribe button. Next live stream is going to be posted in the description. It should be next Saturday. Thanks for tuning in. It's a pleasure as always. I love hearing your questions and doing this. It's really a pleasure. So have a great weekend and happy practicing. Until next time.